Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So, how's your September been going? You getting those things submitted? You getting your writing done? I have been having a pretty good September. Uh, I've been submitting a lot and I've also been writing. So, maybe I'll do a little wrap up for the next video. But I am running into a slight problem. And this is a problem that I've had my whole career. And that is, I've gotten a couple of rejections, and they're always kind of this is great, not quite right for us. And this is not a dig at any publication, but it's more of a reflection of me as a writer. The truth is, I don't write things that fit neatly into a category. And I've always had a hard time placing my work in journals and magazines and websites. I think it's more than just, oh, this story is just not quite right for us because X, Y, and Z. It's more of the style of writing that I do. And that's not anybody else's fault but mine. If I decided that I wanted to be a more literary writer, I probably would have more markets open to me. If I decided that I was going to be a more genre, lean heavier into, say, science fiction, I probably would have more options. But I choose not to do that. And so, because I chose not to do that, sometimes it is frustrating to find places that are a good fit for the kinds of stories that I write. And again, this is not a new problem. It's just a problem that I've always kind of had. So, it's something I just get over. If I want to keep doing this, this is what I got to do. And sorry, I have to adjust to my chair a little bit. but but submitting as much as I have this year, it is reminding me of how much of a slog it is just to submit. It doesn't matter what you're writing. It is tough to submit, whether you're submitting to literary agents or publishers, or you're trying to get a short story published or an essay. You have to write it and then wait. I got a rejection letter this week, and I think I sent it out back in June. And so 90 days I had to wait for a response. These are not typically long uh, um, response times. Sometimes it's quick, like, the last week I was talking, I got a response back in a couple days. But 90 days is about on par with a lot of places. I've already talked about that one place that I submitted years ago, and they literally took a year to get back to me. But it was fine. And when they did get back, it was an acceptance. So you just have to be patient. But it is frustrating sometimes when you have a story and there's only a couple places that you think are a good fit for it, and both of those places reject you. And then you say, okay, where else can I send it? And sometimes there isn't another place. I've had a couple stories where I just had to self publish them because I couldn't really find a good fit. Nothing seemed right. Or there were, maybe two or three places. I sent it to those two or three places. And after that, I said, well, I can't find anywhere else. And y'all, I have joined Facebook groups. I get newsletters. I've gone to blog posts about good markets. Instagram. I have looked at various places on Instagram, and now Substack. There are some places on Substack that have like lists of places that are open. So it's not like I haven't been looking, but I do realize that because of my choice to be sort of a genre bending writer, I kind of limit myself, and I'm trying to make peace with that every single time. And I, I think it would be easier, at least to find more places, maybe not to get published because who knows. But it definitely there would be more places to submit to if I just wrote straight literary fiction. But the times that I've written literary fiction, I have always felt like it wasn't quite my real voice. And because of that, I have stuck to this more obscure way, or obscure style, I should say, of writing. And I just have to live with it. I just have to deal with it. And I don't know. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, except to just kind of talk a little bit about what it's like to be a genre bending writer. Sometimes you just get a little frustrated that there isn't more options. And other times I understand why there aren't that many options, because there are a lot of readers who don't like it. They don't like it when you stray from the formula. Years ago, I had a conversation with one of my coworkers, and she was a big mystery reader. And she said point blank, I don't care about character. I don't care about setting. I don't care about the love interest. I care about the mystery. So I just want to read it, and I want to know who done it is. And I don't care about anything else. And I was like, oh. And in my head, I was thinking, you and I are not the same, because sometimes I care about who the murderer is. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I can figure it out halfway through the book, and I'm sticking around because the story is interesting. The characters are interesting. The time period is interesting. Other times, the twist is very, very satisfying. We've all had that usual suspects moment where it's like, that's Kaiser Sose? Oh my God. So, um, I can go either way. Sometimes I'm in it for the mystery. Sometimes I'm in it for the characters and how they solve the mystery. Um, I used to watch Endeavor on PBS, and I still do. I still occasionally watch the reruns, and I just loved Morse. I just thought he was a great character. And so I would follow him around with his quirks and how he would figure out the mystery. And sometimes, it wasn't that spectacular of a whodunit, but you follow it because he's an interesting guy, and he's an interesting um it was a great series. So because there are readers, though, like my coworker, there are folks who are not interested in the kind of writing that I do, and they only want the formulaic stuff. And who am I to say that that's right or wrong? It's not. It's just different. And I think there are places that completely cater to that. Those kinds of readers, they want someone who has a happy ending. They want someone who they know what kind of tropes are going. They lean into the tropes. A lot of people who write to a market are writing for people who specifically want something. I don't write like that. And because I don't write like that, I think that there are folks who are just not interested in reading that kind of writing. And that's okay. But for me, it's a little frustrating because I'm like, well, where are my peoples? Where are those folks? And my mom and I were having a conversation not too long ago, because she was saying that she had picked up a few recent mysteries and had DNF'd them because they were boring. And she was like, I've read this before. And she said, you know what I did? I ended up going and picking up some mystery books that I had read 20 years ago because I didn't really remember how they ended. And, the writing was really good. So that's why I picked them up. And my mom reads a lot of science fiction and fantasy too. And she reads a lot of mystery. She's read some contemporary romance too. She reads pretty widely. I would say literary fiction is probably the only thing that she doesn't read a lot of. But even then, she will be interested in a few big names if they have something interesting. Like I told her about my Zadie Smith book, and she was like, "Oh, maybe I'll read that." I said, "Yes, just get it from the library, and if you don't want to finish it, you don't have to. You just give it back to the library." But um, but she was telling me how the formulas were just boring to her. And I said, yes, I remember that. I remember reading some mystery books, 20, 30 years ago. And I'd read like two or three and I said, you know what, I'm good. I don't need to read anymore. And I would branch out and read other stuff. And I have still like moved that way. I don't know if I'll ever go back to reading books that are only fitting into this one category. Here and there, I probably will. Like, this year I've been reading a lot more books than I did last year in 2024. And that's been really good for me because I've been reading pretty widely. But still, my favorite books this year have been books that have been sort of straddling that line. I think I just love reading that kind of stuff and I love writing it. So I kicked off this year reading Celeste Ng's uh, Our Missing Hearts. And it's dystopian, set in the future, but like maybe like 10 to 20 years in the future. It was written in, I want to say it was 2022, but it might have been 21 or 23, but around that time. But yeah, dystopian future, really, really well done. And I have over there on my TBR, I have little fires everywhere, and it's been on my TBR for a while. And I think I saw it in the used bookstore and said, "Oh yeah, let me pick it up." And I just haven't gotten around to it. But I saw Missing Hearts in my library, and I picked it up and read it. And I said, "Ooh, now I have to read Miss Little Fires because this was fantastic." But she is more of a literary writer, but she's doing a sort of slightly dystopian future in that book. And I don't know, I don't, Little Fires doesn't have that. It's not dystopian. I don't think there's any science fiction in it at all. It's just straight literary fiction. But her writing style and her talent is enough for me to say, okay, I tried her sort of genre bending. Now I'm going to go read her literary book because it was so satisfying. And I think that that's the important thing, is that once you pull somebody into your writing style, they want to read more of your stuff, no matter where you dabble in. A lot of people will give you a try if they liked one of your other books. So I think I just have to keep writing and not get too discouraged that, this story or that story may not find a home, and I may have to just self-publish it myself and move on to the next story. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last few years. And I don't think that's a bad way to go, but it can get frustrating. So if you're like me and you don't write to a straight market, keep going. Keep going, keep trying, and write new things. That's the best thing I can say, is just write new things. I finished a short story this month. I'm about to finish a second one. Maybe by October 1, I'll have that done. I also finished an essay, and I've been working on my novel. So I've been keeping myself busy submitting and writing and doing all those things in between, and reading and reading. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing. My name is Christina, and I'm a genre bending literary writer, and I will see you all on the next video. Bye.